Since we began reading through the Gospel of Matthew a few weeks ago, we started in the Sermon on the Mount. It started with the "Blessed are the poor in spirit," and then we've been moving through this very long sermon throughout over the course of, I think it was 3 chapters, chapters 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew. Now getting to the conclusion of this sermon now, and he's saying, everything that I said, okay. He's saying, oh, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, it's glorious, I love the way that sounds. But he's saying, it's not just those who say, Lord, Lord, this is wonderful, who get to the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. That there needs to be some action. And even we have this statement where Jesus says, they say, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons in your name? Did we not do mighty deeds in your name? He says, that's not what's key for getting to heaven. I remember reading something that St. John Vianney said, that he was talking about how people say, well, you have to be able to drive out demons or be able to do miracles or healings or all these great works in order to get to healing. And so they excuse themselves, so, well, I can't do that, so I might as well just not pack it in and not even try, and so I can go and do my own thing. And he says, that's the exact opposite of what Jesus says. Those miracles are not what get us to heaven. Rather, it's doing the will of my Father in heaven. And that looks differently for each one of us, although, of course, it means following the moral law. But in each of our vocations, it means, okay, I can do this. Following the will of God, for me, is going to look different than it is for you. For you, following the will of God doesn't mean getting up and preaching at Mass. Maybe next Sunday, but that's not God's will for you. God's will for you is enduring with patience and charity the guy who's up here preaching at Mass. But we look and we say, Jesus is saying to us today, you've got to do God's will. You can't just allow the good words to tickle your ears or say, oh, that's beautiful and wonderful, and then go do our own things. It has to look like something in our lives. So in the Sermon on the Mount, as he says, you've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemies, but I say to you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. That's something that we have to do. And so we say, okay, how do I pray for those who hate me, who are against me? I need to pray for my enemies. That needs to look like not just an idea, but practically doing something. Or when Jesus says, you cannot serve two masters. You will either love the one and hate the other, or despise the one and encourage, whatever it is, be good to the other. He says, you cannot love God and things. And so he says, look at the birds of the air, look at the grass of the field. God clothes them, he takes care of them. Are you not more important than they? So seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you besides. He says, actively trusting in the Lord and serving him alone. So we look and we say, okay, we're called to go back and look through this Sermon on the Mount and say, how do I live this out? And when we get discouraged because things seem too hard, we should get past that discouragement and say, God, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. Help me to live this out. Help me not just to be a person who says these are good words, and Lord, Lord, but rather help me to live your words, to do the will of the Father in heaven.